First of all, I want to say that it's good to see all our juniors and seniors together. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brown, and he will conduct or start the ceremony today.
Good morning. I'm Bill Brown, class of 1975 and president of the Alumni Association. Welcome to the 2006 Distinguished Alumni Awards Ceremony. Since 1995, the J.P. McCaskey Alumni Association has been proud to present these awards to those individuals who have achieved a level of stature which the students of the school district of Lancaster will want to emulate. I'm sure you already know that McCaskey is a terrific place that produces special graduates. 30-some years ago, when I was getting ready to walk across the stage and receive my diploma, I knew it too. But let me give you some perspective that the years and my experience have given me. For the last 26 years, I've been working in the admission office at Lebanon Valley College, now as the Dean of Admission and Financial Aid. I get to talk to prospective students from Florida to Hawaii, from Maine to California, including students from J.P. McCaskey High School. The McCaskey students are not always the best or the brightest or the most outspoken, but the intangible qualities that they bring, their sincerity, drive, humor, understanding, interest, and integrity make them uniquely recognizable and very special. These are qualities that our honorees have and that you too will carry out of this place. Booker T. Washington said, "Excellence is to do a common thing in an uncommon way." Today, we honor 5 individuals who have demonstrated outstanding character and achievement in their fields and in their community by doing common things in uncommon ways. Thank you for joining us today and helping to honor the 2006 Distinguished Alumni Award recipients. It is now my pleasure to introduce and to invite to the podium the McCaskey Campus Principal, Dr. Jerry Bordeaux.
On behalf of the administration and the high school administrators, we would like to welcome these 5 distinguished alumni back to campus. It is with pride that we come together again as a school family to honor these alumni. These students, your students, those of you sitting in the audience, walk the halls that these alumni have walked. These alumni sat in the auditorium where you were sitting. They attended classes. They worried about their grades. They wondered what they would do after they graduated from high school. Today, they have come to tell their stories, what they have done since they left McCaskey. Within their stories are lessons to be learned. Consider what made a difference in their lives. What education did they need to become what they are today? Who helped them along the way? What choices did they make that took their lives in new and unexpected directions? What world events shaped their lives? What is important about their lives? Benjamin Franklin said, "If you would not be forgotten, either write things worth reading or do things worth writing." These alumni have not been forgotten. They have done things worth learning about. They have come today to share their stories, listen, and enjoy their stories that they have come to share with you today. Our next speaker is newscaster and sports writer from WGAL. Please welcome Barbara Barr.
Thanks for having me here. Certainly, it's an honor for me to come back to McCaskey, and I graduated, well, before you guys were born, back in 1979, but it doesn't seem that long ago. I want to say it's great to come back now, and I know I don't have to take any tests here. It's a big relief to me, but I want to say growing up in the city of Lancaster, it was always a goal of mine to come to McCaskey High School. McCaskey was really the school at that time, and my days here were some of the most enjoyable of my life. The academics were great, the athletics, and also the extracurricular activities, the vedette, the musicals, they were always top-notch. And I know they were then, and you guys have also carried on that tradition. We're going to honor 5 graduates here today, distinguished alumni, and I think one of the keys, as I was reading the biographies of all of them, and they're fascinating, and each have their own unique story. I think they all found their calling in life, or maybe their calling found them. And I think that's a goal for each one of you. I hope that each of you will find a calling, find that thing, that work, that service that you love and can be passionate about and have success with. I think that's one of the keys to having a successful life, and we'll certainly see it with these distinguished alumni today. Talking a little bit about the history of these awards, this is the 12th year that they have been handed out. 5 graduates each year are selected, and there are some, it's really an incredible choice. The selection committee has a very, very tough time because McCaskey has so many wonderful graduates doing great things in so many works of life. Here we're going to be honoring people in law, in business, in teaching, and there are doctors out there, so I don't envy their choice each year, the choice they have to make as far as selecting these distinguished alumni. Right now, though, we are going to mention a few people that are here and give them some recognition as well. And the first is a person I think a number of you knows, Butch Staub, former principal. If he'll stand up, give him a hand. Everybody's waking up now, me included. All right, the selection committee, if you'll please stand. For the distinguished alumni. Come on, guys. We also want to welcome guests that have been invited by our 5 distinguished alumni, if you'll stand up right now. And lastly, we want to recognize some past recipients of this award who I've been told are here. First, Dr. Paul Ripple, class of 1940. Nelson Clyde, senior, class of 41. Barbara Valvanis, class of 45. Y'all know this guy. We got Buddy Glover. Come on. Gordon Kraft. Rosa Cunningham Harris. Arthur Morris. Anybody here I missed? Got them all, I think? Congratulations to all you guys. Well, now we are going to begin with our introductions of this year's 5 distinguished alumni. And our first award recipient, Michael J. Perezous, the Honorable Michael J. Perezous, the graduate of McCaskey, 1954. And he is a great example of the American dream. He grew up an only child, son of Greek immigrants who became naturalized citizens. Michael was in the Glee Club and the student council here at McCaskey. He then went on to F&M and eventually to Temple Law School. While attending school, Michael delivered newspapers, he worked at Acme supermarkets, and was a substitute teacher in the Philadelphia School District. Many of these jobs helped pay his way through school and helped him to support a family. After law school, he moved back here to Lancaster and practiced in the firm of Execalis, Perezous, and Mongiavi. They refer to themselves as the United Nations, and with names like that, it was no wonder. But it was tough. They had no problem drawing clients. Michael was able to defend some big cases. He said they were big challenges for him. That's what he liked most about it. He was later elected as judge of the Court of Common Pleas, and he served there since 1982. Michael can also sing. He and his wife Dolores are members of the choir of the Hellenic Orthodox Church. They also like to dote on their grandchildren. So please join me in welcoming the Honorable Michael J. Perezous.
Good morning. Good morning. You know where Beaver Street is? Right between Prince and Queen, and an intersecting street is Conestoga. That's where I was born. That's where I grew up. Adam Reichert School, George Washington Elementary, Edward Hand, Junior High. Only in America can the son of Greek immigrants who came to this country in search of a better life, only in America can that boy become a judge. Hard work, emphasis on an education, emphasis on family values helped me. It also helps to have a good motivator that I've had for nearly 50 years, my wife, Dolores. A lot of ethnic groups have sayings for things. The saying in Greek about grandchildren is this: the child of my child is twice my child. We're all somebody's grandchildren, aren't we? And we have grandchildren of our own. Looking down the list of the past recipients, for me, was very scary. I know a lot of these people. Some of them have already been introduced to you. Jerry Letts, Dr. Ripple, Judge Buckwalter, Reverend Butcher, Judge Apple, Judge Ekman, Nelson Polite, Barbara Valavanis, Dr. Argiers, Buddy Glover, John Luce, Dr. Bove, Judge Ekman, Jerry Schuler, Dick Hawksworth, Freeland Christ, Katie True, Gordy Kraft, Mayor Smithgall, Mayor Morris, Father Veronis, Barbara Minnie, Dr. McSparron, and Attorney Carolyn Hoffer. All of us walk through these halls the same way you are. And if we can do it, if we could do it, if I could do it, selling newspapers, working in a supermarket, working at Armstrong over the summer, working in an aluminum plant over the summer, if I could do it, so can you. Thank you.
Our next award recipient is Ronald C. Berger. He graduated from McCaskey in 1966. He earned a teaching degree from Millersville, then made a life-altering decision. He decided to join the Peace Corps. In Ghana, West Africa, he helped deal with an outbreak of cholera discovering his passion at that time for education and public health. After returning to the United States, Ron Berger began working for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention here. He's been called in to help with disasters such as Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, the eruption of the Mount St. Helens volcano in Washington State, the bombing of the Federal Building in Oklahoma City, and the bombings at the World Trade Center up in New York. He says his most rewarding experience, however, was working in Bangladesh, assisting in the eradication of smallpox. Ron lives in Georgia and has recently moved to Florida. He was also honored as a Volunteer of the Year by the Red Cross, as well as his community. His has been a life of public service. Accepting today on behalf of Ron is Lori Berger Daly, his sister.
Good morning. I wish to thank the alumni for inviting me to accept this award on behalf of my brother. Ron regrets that he could not be here for this special occasion. It is my pleasure to read his acceptance speech for the special honor for which he is sincerely thankful for the McCaskey Alumni Association. It is with great pride that I accept the 2006 J.P. McCaskey's Distinguished Alumni Award. I am so much honored to have been selected from so many McCaskey graduates. I wish to thank the Alumni Awards Committee and my sister Lori Daly for her recommendation to the committee. Graduating from McCaskey clearly makes us all distinguished in our communities. This award also comes at another milestone of my life. I retired from a 33-year career in government service with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, Georgia at the beginning of 2006. I am now beginning my retirement career by working at the Florida Department of Health and volunteering at the local chapter of the American Red Cross in Tallahassee. The education provided me through the Lancaster City Public School System gave me all the tools that I needed for my life's work. Lafayette Elementary, Reynolds Junior High, and J.P. McCaskey High School provided me the environment in order for me to learn and experience what I needed to make positive contributions to society, applying learning to life and excel based on my ability. The quality of staff, programs, services, and facilities reflects the commitment to student success and partnership with parents and the community. Lancaster City Schools tagline says it all: advancing learning in Lancaster, together we can. Together we can do whatever. It's a mission to prepare all students to be successful individuals capable of meeting high expectations and serving as responsible citizens in a rapidly changing world is truly what the School District of Lancaster has been accomplishing over the years. I have fond memories of my school days here in Lancaster and how I learned my basic premises through patience and self-control. They are: follow the rules, begin and complete a task on time, and play and work in harmony. I have lived my basics premises. They have worked for me at home, work, and play. They were taught to me throughout my school days here in Lancaster. From my college work-study program at the Boys Club of Lancaster, from my service in Ghana, West Africa as a Peace Corps volunteer, from my teaching high school in Downingtown, from my public health and disaster work in many states and cities, to my volunteer work with the American Red Cross and my county. I have and will continue to meet the mission of the School District of Lancaster by maintaining high expectations and serving as a responsible citizen no matter where I am. Once again, many thanks for this recognition, and I regret that I could not be with you today to recognize all J.P. McCaskey's student body. Be safe and stay healthy through prevention, patience, and self-control. Best regards, Ronald Berger.
Our next award winner, J. David Smith, and he also graduated in class of 1966. David was an outstanding athlete at McCaskey. He starred in football, basketball, and baseball. And he also wrote a column dear to my heart called Tornado Talk. In 2000, David was inducted into the McCaskey Athletic Hall of Fame as well. He went on to play sports at Gettysburg College. then served in the United States Army. His story is that of someone who started at the bottom rung of business and was able to work his way to the top through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. In the early 1970s, he took a job at Howmet Aluminum Corporation right here in Lancaster. He gradually worked his way up the ladder in that business. He eventually created a company called Euramax International Incorporated. David is chairman, CEO, and president of the $1.2 billion international building products business. Of our award recipients, I'd say he's the guy to get the stock tips from. David still loves sports though. He plays in the Atlanta Men's Senior Baseball League, 28 years and older, and of course we know David is about 29 or 30, in that area. He lives in Atlanta with his wife. They have 2 kids. His parents live right here in Lancaster, so please join me in giving David Smith a great welcome.
I'll say this, it's great to be back, and part of my message is about time, and I'm not going to tell you because that introduction told you just about everything I've done with my life. Appreciate that very much. I thank the committee, the nomination selection committee, and I also thank the Alumni Association in total for this distinguished alumni award. I recognize that tens of thousands of people have graduated from this great high school, and to be selected, and I guess this is a 12-year times 5 is 60 people, is just quite an honor for me, so I really do appreciate it. McCaskey obviously has provided me with a strong academic foundation, a super sports and athletic program. We played in the Central Penn back in the day before I had this gray hair, and a tremendous amount of life experiences. The diversity of this school, I was saying to some of the folks before we started, is just absolutely incredible, and it's what life is all about, to develop the people skills necessary, I think, to be successful in this world today. I, like the other award recipients, have been asked to spend just a couple minutes talking to you regarding my time at McCaskey, what it meant to me, my life experiences, and offer you any other wisdom which might have come along in the few years since I've been out of this distinguished school. I've actually chosen to spend my time talking to you about your time. I think it's just a message that I felt came to me that is very important, and I can remember almost 40 years ago to the day when we had an assembly in this hall, and we had a few preliminary speakers, but ultimately it came down to a guy storming from over here on this side of the stage saying, "It's about time." And he rushed out on the stage, and everybody thought, what is this guy going to talk about? He was very upset. But the whole message during that assembly was about time and timing devices and what the extraordinarily new things in technology were that were being developed in the 1960s. Stay with me here. I know you can't remember the 1960s, but that's what the message was about. It was about time. So finally this guy got into his speech, and he showed us all these neat things that were going on with electronic things and digital things and all things we didn't understand about in those days, but we certainly understand about now. My message today is not about timing devices. As I said, my message is more about your time. And we're on this earth a relatively short time. By my math, it appears that your high school years maybe represent 4 or 5% of your total life. You can't save time, you can't see time, you can't feel time, you can't taste. Time just invisibly passes by. So the message overall here is to use your time wisely. And you might say, well, how? And I'm going to give you just a few suggestions in my brief moments up there. I have 5 points to make. Number 1, use your school time wisely, stay the course, get your diploma. I know most of you in here are 11th and 12th graders, and I realize many of you are just on the edge of graduation in a few weeks, but and you're to be congratulated for that, for staying the course, getting through school, and getting your diploma is very important. I read an article that was in Time magazine a few weeks ago that said, "Dropout Nation." And the Dropout Nation statistics are roughly 1 out of every 3 students in a public school do not graduate. You must work toward graduation. To have a chance in this world today, it's becoming ever more increasingly global, competitive. So you must get your education, at least give yourself a better opportunity to be successful out there. So I know many of you are graduating, and again, congratulations for that. I know many of you are 11th graders. Stay the course, finish the drill. You got 9th and 10th graders coming along behind you, send the same message to them. Number 2, develop lifelong friendships. I know that might sound like, it might be a little trite, but I think it's very important. I'll give you one example, one life example for me. When I was here in 63, kind of through 66, I had some good buddies, and we all played sports together, and oddly enough, our lives stayed together. 3 people that were in my class in 66 are key members in our company today. One guy ended up being best man in our wedding. We have been friends and business associates for a long time. So we've had an over 4-decade relationship, and all these other 3 guys from the class of 66 are employed in our company doing very, very critical things. So friendships are very important. Third point, get involved in extracurricular activities. Do things that are beyond studying. Studying very important, but whether it be the vedette, whether it be football, baseball, cheerleading, any of the clubs that are out there, do something in addition to just coming to class and trying to get good grades. Interact with friends, get involved in clubs, do things that are going to broaden you as a person as you go forward in life. Fourth, and I'll be very careful with this because it's public school, it's a very delicate issue, but the statistics are that 75% of people make their faith and spiritual decisions when they're in their teenage years. So I'm going to stop at that. These are very critical years, they're very formative years, but this is a thing that you must pay attention to also. And finally, have fun and enjoy yourself. As I said, this is 4 or 5% of your life. These are the best years of your life while you're here. You can enjoy it, you can play, you don't have a lot of responsibilities, you can study, you can get yourself ready for life. So make sure you have some fun while you're here too, and not just view this as drudgery being in school. The McCaskey years for me were tremendous years. They were cherished years in my life. I've traveled the world. I've had more experience than I should have. I've been blessed with some tremendous opportunities, but I still look back on these years at McCaskey and my time in Lancaster, and I left here when I was 32 years old as the best years of my life. I just view the time here as being very valuable. My hope is that when you are my age, that you can say exactly the same thing that I just said about your years at McCaskey. And again, don't be part of the dropout nation, as this article is talking about. Stay the course, get your education, have a great and successful life, and go Red Tornado.
Our next Distinguished Alumni Award recipient is Matthew Pinsker, class of 1986. Matthew discovered early on that he had a love for American history. He was encouraged by teachers at Ronald Junior High and McCaskey. And at a time when SATs were mandatory, he actually got into Harvard. He graduated with high honors there and then studied at the University of Oxford in England. He is now one of the youngest holders of an endowed professorship in American history in the country. He's also written 2 books, Abraham Lincoln and Lincoln's Sanctuary, Abraham Lincoln and the Soldier's Home, a book that's been widely praised and reviewed in papers such as the Washington Post. Matt is an American history professor at Dickinson College, and he also works as a consultant for the firm Jack Burden and Associates. Matt says he also owes McCaskey a lot and that he met his wife, Rachel, here. Please join me in welcoming Matthew Pinsker.
Well, I'm very grateful to be here. I'm honored to be on the stage with these people, and I am kind of amazed when I think about all of the connections I have to McCaskey. My mother was a teacher here, a social studies teacher, Ann Pinsker. She was one of the founders of the IB program. She was here when I was here. It was great at the time because if I ever needed lunch money or anything, I had a safety net. I didn't actually meet my wife here. She was a student of my mom. She graduated in '92. But she was a McCaskey graduate, and so I have that in common with her. We shared some of the same teachers. My business partner, James DeBoard, was an '87 graduate. I have an awful lot of friends still that I keep in touch with. Next month I'm going to go to my 20th reunion. There are about 6 of us guys who have stayed in contact with each other pretty closely, and we're getting together that weekend, doing the same things we did when we were here. Playing basketball, eating pizza, making fun of each other. Except now we're doing it with our wives and our children. But it's an important thing, and all of us here today are going to testify to the enduring friendships you make when you're in high school. For me, especially as a teacher, what I'm struck with when I come back here is how important the teachers and the administrators were, in a way that I didn't realize at the time. But there are people here now who have been an important part of my life. Butch Staub was here when I was at McCaskey. A couple of other teachers were here. Mr. Ernst, that's right. Mr. Valari was here. Mr. Horn is no longer here, but he was one of my favorites. Pete Horn, the basketball coach. Buddy Glover was here, was a principal, one of my favorites, kept me out of trouble, and now still fighting a good fight here in Lancaster in the district. And one of my favorite teachers was here. In fact, probably my favorite teacher is still here, Frank Gray. I owe him an awful lot, and I can tell you I'll feel good about this today. After the assembly, I'm going to go see him and his class. And then I'm also going to go see a former favorite student of mine, who's now a teacher of yours, Todd Mealy. So, that's right. I get to go see my favorite teacher and then one of my favorite students, and it just amazes me, all of these connections that I have to the school and to the place here. And, I admit that not everybody at McCaskey is going to meet their wife or their business partner or have all of these connections, but you will make friends here that will endure for life. I will say this, I think this is true. The most important person you're going to meet in high school is yourself. And what I mean by that is it's during this period when you really start to get to know what you like and what you don't like and what you're good at and where you're heading with your life. And that, for me, was the best thing McCaskey did for me. It was a place, it's the kind of school where there's so many opportunities and so many different kinds of people, and you're exposed to so much that you really can test yourself. And I was thrilled also by the attitude we have here. I hope it's still present. It was certainly there when I was at McCaskey, which says if you want to do something, you do it. Go prove yourself. One reason why Pete Horn was one of my favorite teachers is because when I was a senior, he hired me as his assistant teacher in an American history class. I was pretty good at history, but the job was supposedly just to help him photocopy stuff. But we were talking about what he was planning to do in one of his classes before he started teaching it, and I gave him some suggestions. I was a little full of myself, and he looked at me and he says, well, why don't you teach the class? And he gave me the chalk and put me out there in front of the AP American history class when I was a senior in high school, and I did a terrible job. But because he gave me a chance to teach at the age of 17, I'm teaching at the age of 37. And that's another reason why I love Frank Gray as a teacher. He was somebody who was listening to me complain one day about how I thought the bidet was a little dull, and school was a little slow, and people were taking themselves too seriously. And he said, why don't you start a humor magazine? And so we did, and he was the advisor and I was the editor, and it was one of the reasons why I've been able to become a writer, because I was able to sort of try for myself. And that is the most important thing I would urge you to remember as you go forward, is when you try things, when you learn to test yourself and find out who you are, you got to give yourself a little space to fail. And I can speak now from experience and also as a historian, somebody who's written 2 books about Abraham Lincoln. The key to success is the willingness to fail. You're going to have a lot of disappointments along your way. In fact, I would say every one of us here on this stage and every one of the historical figures I've studied and taught, they've had more disappointments than successes. And then you have to figure out a way to thrive despite it, not to let the disappointments frustrate your determination. And in fact, how you learn from those mistakes often helps you achieve greater success down the road. And that was one thing I thought McCaskey did very well for me. And I hope it's going well for you. And so I congratulate you as you approach the end of the year. And I hope that you'll be blessed with the same kind of experience I was, and that you'll have the same kind of network of friends that I had, the kind of people who, encourage you to be good while still being able to remind you that you're not perfect. And I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Our last award recipient today is Clyde Lucas, class of 1963, and with a name like Clyde, you know he's cool, and you also know he's done some very cool things in his life. Clyde was also an athlete here at McCaskey and inducted into the McCaskey Athletic Hall of Fame back in 2003. He went to college on a football scholarship, and then he found another love, music. One day he found the key to his success. He ended up being a left-handed drummer. Clyde started to take drum lessons, moved to New York City, and it turned out he was good, very good. He's performed all over the world, the famous jazz festivals at Montreux, Switzerland, Nice, France, and Newport, Rhode Island. He's played at Carnegie Hall in New York City, Lincoln Center, as well as theaters and popular jazz clubs in the city as well. And he's also played with some great ones. Count Basie Orchestra, Ray Charles, to name a couple. Clyde now teaches, holds workshops in the area, and is an adjunct faculty member at the Lancaster Bible College. He lives in West Lampeter Township with his wife Carol. Please join me in welcoming Clyde Lucas.
Fantastic. Good morning. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here. As I look out over the audience, I see unlimited potential. Ask yourself this question: how can I reach my potential? If you'll pick up on a few lessons that I've learned over the years, I think it can shorten your trip and get you there a lot quicker. First, you are not who you think you are. Second, you are not who others think you are. Third, and this is the trap that most of us fall into, you are who you think others think you are. But here's the reality. You are a magnificent created being by God Almighty who has a master plan for each and every one of your lives. Now, right now, I would like to demonstrate to you a little of the potential that I found.
Drum it out. So, why me drop the beat? Oh. Hey, yo, check this.
wake you up in the morning. Great job. Yeah. Why don't we have one final hand for 5 distinguished alumni award recipients? A great audience, and we're going to have some closing remarks now for the ceremony by Dwight Nope, the acting principal here at McCaskey High, but great job, you guys.
That's just a hard act to follow. I'm going to be very brief. When I reflect on the lives of these 5 gentlemen, and we put the word distinguished in front of them, distinguished alumni, the alumni piece we know belongs to the fact that they graduated from McCaskey. They walked these halls like you do every day. They got up some mornings and drugged themselves to school when they didn't feel like it, but they did it. That's the alumni part. The distinguished part gets tagged to their name because they influence others. And if we reflect back on the lives, we reflect back on the lives and the influences that these gentlemen have had since they left McCaskey, can you imagine literally the millions of people that were influenced with maybe better health care, sports, entertainment? We have a musician here who I think probably pulled in millions of people over his time in performing. Today, I think he pulled in another 500 or 600 of us. And you could go on and on and on. As a judge, probably saw hundreds of thousands of people and influenced millions of lives. That's the distinguished part. And that's what's so neat when we look at our 11th and 12th graders and we realize that, you know what? You're going to have that same effect as you leave here. You start building that web of influence. And you can either be influencing the way these gentlemen are, or you can spread an influence that's a cancer to society. What we saw today was an encouragement for us to continue to influence in ways that bring society up to a certain standard, that help people that don't have what they need to live a good life, to ensure good education for kids, to ensure good health care. I could go on and on and on. So your job today is to grab onto this, remember this, and look for ways that you can put that word distinguished in front of your name, and hopefully, maybe in 20 years, 15 years, we'll see some of you back up here on the stage talking to kids as they complete 11th and 12th grade. So let's give a round of applause for the gentlemen here today. And I must say also, I appreciate you students for being a wonderful audience. At this time, we're going to hold the 11th graders here. You have there's some important information that you need to get about your senior pictures. It will only take a few minutes, so we need to go over that. At this time, we're going to dismiss the seniors to go back to your classes. Juniors, hang out for a few minutes.